thing raspberries planted between
The two horses.
yeah
That'll be nice.
raspberries. It's my farm hands. Like, we got all these requests for raspberries.
When the trees all get in and there's the raspberry, whatever, we'll take a very nice photo and put it in our newsletter. That would be a good thing.
Well, then I'm gonna be back to work.
Well, it won't be ready for a little, once it's done,
And it looks nice, yeah.
we can put it in our newsletter so the community knows.
But they got,
what's
Hey,
going on.
Chair,
You got 12 seconds to go.
Yeah, like a news.
and we just
yeah,
have,
they didn't go to the blue factory or anything.
Yeah.
No, it's like
Yeah.
burial.
but we have quorum, so the meeting can start. And does everybody want me to close this door?
Please don't do this. Please don't. Okay.
We like the ocean breeze.
Breeze on the back of my neck.
You like it or don't like it?
We like it.
Okay.
Or if you don't like
But
it.
George, we can.
We're just about freezing to death.
Okay, we're good.
Poor George.
No, let me do that.
You need to grow some more hair.
I'll get out of the way and
More insulation.
it's already wrecked. Next time we can do that.
This is tuxedo.
Thank you very much, everybody. I will call to order this meeting of the Pearl River Regional Hospital District Committee of the Whole and recognize that the meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of the Blackfoot people who are so generous as to share their territory with us. The first item on would be approval of the agenda, and with the patience of the board, I'd like to add one between 7 and 8, which is the short chair's report. Other than that, I would like to accept the agenda. Moved. Director Gisborne. Seconded by
Director Brander.
Director Brander. I knew his name all week. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor of accepting the agenda as circulated, amended, any opposed? That's carried. We have no delegations or inquiries, no unfinished business, no correspondence, no business arising from the correspondence, and under the chair's report.
Chair, should we not adopt the minutes?
We didn't adopt the minutes, and we have minutes
Now we got past that.
from March 1st, 2023, and they are in your package. Director Elliott.
I'd move the adoption of the minutes.
Seconded by Director McCormick. Any discussion on those minutes? No. All those in favor? Any opposed? Very unanimously. Now we are down to item 7.5, which is the chair's report. Previously, the board had approved committing some money to the Hospice Society for the creation of a hospice, hopefully on Vancouver Coastal Health property. They've been working on that for a while. Last time I met with them and talked to the board about progress, they were trying to update a memorandum of understanding with Vancouver Coastal Health about getting that on the way, getting a process and getting some agreement on use of the hospital property. That most recently has come to Vancouver Coastal Health suggesting to the Hospice Society that they wanted to do another needs study before they can move forward with that. And I am thinking about inviting the Hospice Society to come as a delegation to the next regional hospital board meeting to let us know what's going on with them and to publicize what they're trying to do and the good service they're trying to do to the community to create a hospice that people can rely on later in life. So with that, we'll put out that invitation for a meeting towards the end of the month. Everybody nodding their heads, so that's good. So regional hospital district lands adjacent to Joyce Avenue. Mr. Devereaux, would you like to introduce the subject? I saw you online.
I don't have anything to add other than the report, Chair.
Anybody have a motion? Director McCormick.
I would move the motion, including option 2.
We'll have a seconder for that motion. Sure.
Lennox.
Second. Neutral today. Any other discussion on that? Director Gisborne.
Yeah, we've been given this issue great deal of thought. Option 2 in here seems to make the most sense because it would preserve the trees and we clear out and fire smart the area. With that being said, over the last year or two, I've been working with a forester on my own farm, and we've been having just some general off-the-cuff discussions about, fire smarting areas. And one of the things that I've come to understand, and I've seen in parts of my own forest, is we live in a temperate rainforest. And when the ground gets cleaned up and fire smarted, we lose a lot of that ground protection for the retention of moisture in the ground. And for areas where it seems to have been cleaned up, when weather gets dry like this, it seems to put a lot of strain on the trees. So maybe the kind of fire smarting works well in some areas, but maybe not so well in others. I don't think we have any plans to water that forest in this resolution, and I think that would be kind of cost prohibitive. This isn't the first time that we've seen issues with the lift building, BC Housing building where it is. And I'm wondering, would it be possible for the Regional Hospital District to get a copy of their lease agreement to take a look at? Because it seems like there keeps being issues occurring up there that are not conducive to a healthy social environment on Regional Hospital District's lands.
Staff have a copy of the lease agreement that could be shared.
Yes, we do, Chair.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. So before the supportive housing was put there, we also had illegal encampments on that property that is still wooded beside there. There were issues on that property before. So granted, the lease to the people with the social housing, they can only really monitor their own areas. So I'm wondering, without being specific, like we're just generally asking them to address our issues on our land because we think it's their fault. Maybe the supportive housing is creating a gathering space for people that also have other mental health issues and maybe spilling over there. There were issues there long before that social housing project went in there. And I think we're all conveniently forgetting that there was a huge tent encampment in there that we had to have removed at one point in time, long before that housing project was there. So my question to the board is, if we're going to write a letter asking people to address it, what is it we specifically want them to do? And is that within their power to do? So they're not police, they're not vigilantes. They're not responsible for every single thing people do. A lot of the people who are causing these issues don't live in their place. So what is it exactly we want them to do? But I do like the Fire Smart project. That's my question to the board.
See Director Gisborne's hand and then Director Paul.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point from Director Elliott, because the motion before us is that the committee recommend the Regional Hospital District Board that the board send a letter to LIFT requesting that they address social issues migrating from their facility to Regional Hospital District lands. So yes, this resolution is essentially putting the onus onto LIFT and is implying that these problems are migrating from their facility. And you are correct, there was issues on that property before the social housing project was even built. But if memory serves me correctly, I recall when this was being proposed that as this social housing project gets underway, it would address these issues that are taking place on this property, and that would then help kind of clean up that site, and we wouldn't then have these issues. Well, here we are now years later, that piece of property is still having issues, and this resolution is, putting the finger on LIFT and very much implying, if not directly stating, that the issues are migrating from their facility. But are they migrating from their facility, or is it, someone to come and see their friends and you know, I know in the staff report it says antisocial behavior, but you know, social behavior is very different for different folks. Like that might be their socializing is going into that little forest and doing God knows what. And that's one of the reasons why I'm curious to see the lease agreement, which is a bit separate, and we can I can look at that later. But it's just kind of like how this resolution is very much implying that the social issues are migrating from the lift facility. And it's like we're putting the onus on them. And I don't know, are these people that are causing these issues residents of the lift building, or are they, you know, someone else? That's a very good point, Director Elliott. Thank you.
Director Lennox.
I appreciate.
Sorry, Director Paul's on.
He's for.
I keep
Right.
them out of him.
Sometimes I have some patience. I think the question raised by Director Elliott's a very good one, is what exactly are we asking? I actually don't think this motion is pointing a very strong finger. In a sense, it doesn't say all social issues or these social issues, or, you know, it just says address social issues. So any social issues. So if there are any social issues coming from that facility to help them, and what could they do? And maybe the letter could be a little more clear with some details. It would be, I could imagine, well, a big part is education. I mean, Lyft can only do so much. They're trying to provide a service. They can only provide, you know, they have limited extra human resources they can put. They're not going to probably be able to afford to pay someone to be out there to do this or that. I don't know, but they could at least provide some education to the people in their facility to kind of help them understand the implications that really, if there are people who are misusing the property, the forest back there, that there will be consequences. And the first one is that we're going to be fire smarting it. And so it's going to be a little, you know, less unsafe for fires, but it's also going to be a little less appealing for kind of hanging out. But if problems continue, well, then this is the first step, and maybe, you know, the regional district will have to do something else. So I think just asking them to take some at least educational aspects to educate the people they're helping and their friends and families, that, you know, that to try to be respectful of the property back there.
Director Lennox, you're getting.
Thank you, Director Paul and Chair. I appreciate the discussion here. Thinking about it again, it is more than just Lyft. I mean, I grew up in this town and I rummaged around all those areas and all through those trails. But opening it up and fire smarting it is a great objective. So that's really what I believe the focus is. We are being consistent in our approach to Lyft, though. As you well know, we've approached this topic, whatever negative effects they're having on the community, in several avenues. This is a known contributor to this particular piece of property. I think it is reasonable to just let them know that we're seeing an issue and that they address it. That gives them the chance to kind of get ahead of issues. And I just had one quick question on option 3. Maybe to staff. I see the tree protection bylaw. I believe the intent of that is to just comply with the existing bylaw, not just cut every stick and twig on the property. But as well, is there any future plans for that property, you know, looking ahead in the future, you know, take an opportunity to log it and prepare it for future use? Is there any considerations on the radar for that?
Well, I'm gonna try as chair of the committee to answer the last part of your question there. And that, yes, there are other demands in that property. The regional hospital district owns a big piece of property there. There's a possible evergreen expansion or evergreen replacement project coming up. There's other things. There's a hospice society that's looking to find some property there on the regional hospital district land, and there may be other choices. There is already one supportive housing, so there are other demands on that. As far as that answering a question, I hope that helps.
It does.
Is there anybody else? I'd like to jump in on this, and as chair, I guess if we write the letter, I'll be signing it. And I think some of the language can be improved on that. From the beginning in the discussion with Lyft about the supportive housing, there was an agreement to spend about $5,000 a year in brush removal and clearing to make sure that you could see through there, because there were tent encampments on that property, as Director Elliott has said before the supportive housing was there. The supportive housing residents are not the only people in the community. There are others in the community, some in supportive housing, some outside, some friends of people in the supportive housing, and some not, just other people from in the community. So rather than saying to Lift, it's your fault that all these ills of society are happening, we can say we recognize that there's some fire smart stuff that can be done there. There's some clearing that can possibly make it less likely for tent encampments to appear on the property, and to maintain the value of the green space in the city. Speaking on behalf of people in the city, I know that people are disappointed when they see trees go. I get emails from people who want to maintain wildlife corridors and make sure there are green spaces to walk through. And if we can get a cooperation from the granting agencies and maybe from Lyft about expanding what we do on clearing the property, I think that would be a positive thing. But I think it needs to be approached in a positive way rather than an accusatory way. And these are things that have been talked about at the Supportive Housing Community Advisory Committee, which I sit on behalf of the regional district. And I've always found Lyft to be interested in doing the best that they can to make it a better place. So I would support this, provided that the letter is written in an appropriate, positive way. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. I like what you have to say. I would prefer a letter with a collaborative tone that has joint responsibility, that doesn't point fingers. I would also like the letter to ask for information about what it is they are doing so that we can have input to whatever plan they're doing, because I know they're making significant efforts to address things. And so being informed about what those plans are and maybe having an opportunity to provide input would be a good idea. So I suggest we not ask them to address their social issues, but rather ask them, you know, make aware that social issues are happening. We know they're doing stuff. Could you please share what you're doing? Can we have input? Also, we have this idea around Fire Smart. We'd like to collaborate, yada, yada, yada. I would appreciate a tone that it was more that way.
Anyone else? So we have the board think we need an amendment to the motion that's in the recommendation, or I don't think we actually have a motion on the floor. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
I think we do.
Yeah. I would like to amend the wording to remove the wording that says requesting they address social issues migrating from their facility. I would prefer a motion that did not have those words in it. I don't know exactly what it should be, but it should be a letter to Lyft asking for collaboration on social issues.
Related to their facility?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm just not as good at it as some people. So my proposal would be to remove requesting they address social issues migrating from their facility and replace that with asking for collaboration on social issues in the area or the region or the neighborhood.
Was that a seconder I heard? Next. We got that down.
Striking out requesting they address social issues migrating from their facility, and asking for collaboration on social issues in the area.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I think that captures what we were looking at. Any more discussion on that? Those in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? I think that carries unanimously, so we're on to the main motion as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. To the next item is Regional Hospital District Revenue Anticipation Resolution.
I'll move.
Seconder, Director Brander seconded. Ms. Greenan, did you want to make any comments on that?
Thank you, Chair. No, I don't think I want to make any comments. This is a statutory requirement and it's something that we have to have in place before the new budget season in January.
It's pretty straightforward. We see that a couple of times a year in different bodies. Any discussion? See any? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Carried unanimously as well. And we have 8.3. Regional Hospital District Interim Financial Statements to July 31st, 2023. Brina, did you want to go through that at all?
Thank you, Chair. No, I don't have any concerns with the financial statements. Everything looks as it should be at the end of July 2023.
Thank you. Director Lennox, did you have your hand up?
I was just moving the recommendation.
Okay, I have a seconder. Director Elliott. Discussion. Director Elliott.
So our expenditures obviously are exceeding our revenue. And I'm wondering if that's just a timing thing or if that's how our year's gonna end up. And if so, is that part of the plan and how does that rectify over time?
Brina.
Thank you, Chair. Year to date, our expenditures are they're actually, you'll see it says a year to date it's a negative 2,660,000. That's actually a good thing. So we actually are in a positive balance. We have an excess of $753,600 of revenue over expenditures year to date. And so it just looks different because our revenues are stated as a negative value.
Okay. So we're all good.
Yes.
I was reading it wrong. Thank you.
Never say all good.
Mostly good.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. And the next item of business, 8.4, the Regional Hospital District 2024 Provisional Budget. Ms. Greenan, any comments on that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, I wanted to mention in this is a provisional budget. So this will just allow us to operate until the actual budget is adopted in March 2024. But one thing I did want to mention here is that the plan for the Willingdon Creek Village debt has always been that we would pay off a big portion of that debt when it renewed in 2024. And so I had discussed that with the Municipal Finance Authority many years ago. And I just wanted to confirm it with them and just double check my calculations. And they informed me that they no longer allow local governments to pay down a portion of their debt in the 10th year. You have to pay the whole thing. You can't just pay a portion of it. So what that means is that we won't have that opportunity. And so, but the good news is that they have already renegotiated the debt of the regional hospital of the Willingdon Creek Village, and the new interest rate will be 4.52%. So it is less than we, what we were concerned about. We were concerned that it might go up to 6 or 7%. What that means is that would bring our debt payment up to $1.832 million. And right now it is at $1.488 million. So that's a difference of $343,000. And so when we do the first budget draft, I'll propose a new strategy to potentially what I'm thinking is that we will use some of the interest, of course, from the $4 million savings that we have. And then there'll be a difference that we'll have to get from taxation or to take it from the reserves that we have set aside. So I don't think that the impact to the requisition is going to be as substantial as we were concerned about.
Director Gisborne, you have a question?
Did I hear and understand that correctly, that the Municipal Finance Authority doesn't allow local governments to pay down our debt? Like
In chunks.
Like in chunks?
Ms. Greenan.
They can, all right.
Yes, that's correct. So what happens is when we take out a security issuing bylaw, we agree that we're borrowing a certain amount and that we're going to make semi-annual payments on that debt. And so we also have like a sinking fund that the surplus goes into. So part of our debt is reduced by the interest that we earn on this sinking fund. And so what the Municipal Finance Authority, if you have a 20-year debt, they always refinance it at 10 years. And 5 or 10 years. In this case, it's 10 years. And at that point, you are allowed the opportunity to pay out that debt in full. And they used to allow you to put a big chunk of principal down, but they discontinued allowing that because it causes so many problems for their sinking fund, like their surplus. The surplus portion of the debt. And so yes, they will no longer allow us to put a big chunk of principal down.
So when this 10-year loan comes up for renewal next year, we have the choice of either paying down the entire thing or reborrowing essentially the full amount. Like we can't pay off a chunk of it. Is that now my next question is, who is the representative to the Municipal Finance Authority from our board? Because to me, this just sounds like theoretically we could have 75% of the money built up that we could pay it off. And instead, we're going to keep incurring interest on the debt, and we're going to have a bunch of money set aside, and we're going to take the interest from the money that we got set aside to try and cover the
Trust on the borrow.
Like, I'm just wondering, like, if I did this at my house, like, that's a good way to go broke. And it's not anything with our staff or the regional district. This is a Municipal Finance Authority decision or issue. And I'm just thinking to myself, when I go down to UBCM in a couple of weeks, I think I have a few people I want to have some choice words with. Because, yeah, like, our amazing manager of financial services has been, pushing our hospital district for many years to say, let's build our reserves so that we can pay down the debt, so that when it comes for renewal, we're not getting eaten by interest and being eaten by the debt, which is, it takes a lot of work to be able to keep the tax rate up so that we can work to pay back the debt. But now it just feels like the MFA has pulled the carpet out from under us. And
Director Gisborne. So our MFA delegate for the regional district is Director Brander. I am filling in for him as the alternate at this semi-annual MFA one, and I will address that question with the other directors of the MFA.
Yeah.
And see if I can come back with a time.
Because
I had a question of my own for Ms. Greenan, if that's okay. And have we been setting aside funds in reserve in anticipation of being able to pay down a larger piece of this debt?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have been setting some funds aside for that purpose.
Okay, so that will give us the cushion and be able to direct those funds to some other purpose, since it appears they're no longer available to be paid to pay down a chunk of debt. And that'll be all part of the budget discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that will be.
Okay.
how much reserves are we sitting on right now? Is it 4?
Green enough, top of your head, do you have an answer for how much the reserves would be?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I do. It is 4.8. At the end of 2023, they're projected at $4.837 million in the Section 20 reserve, and then there's 2.2 million in the Willingdon Creek Village Maintenance Reserve.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? If we actually have the motion proposed,
We have not had a mover in
I think that would be an appropriate thing to happen right now. If somebody would like to make the motion. Director Elliott, seconder, Director Lennox. Any more discussion on that? In favor of the motion? Any opposed? Takes a little while for the hand raising to get here from Laskeedy, but it made it.
I'm in favor.
Director Fall. No new business. We're down to question period. Is there anybody in the audience joining us electronically who has a question they would like to ask about the Regional Hospital District business?
Galinsky from the Peak here, Chair. I have a couple of questions with regard to the Regional Hospital District 2024 provisional budget.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the manager outlining the interest rate. That was one question that I had scoped out, and it seems to be better than what she had outlined in her report. So that's good news. The $4.4 million comes from a Section 20 reserve. I'm wondering, Chair, if the manager could explain what a Section 20 reserve is.
Karina.
Thank you, Chair. The Section 20 reserve it's just the term for reserve funds in the Regional Hospital District under the Regional Hospital District Act.
Okay, I thank you for that. And the other question is, it was stated by the manager that the increase in the payment for Willingdon Creek Village from 1.4 to about $1.8 million could be borne perhaps through reserve and other money that is within the system. I presume this means that this cannot be renegotiated with Vancouver Coastal Health, the amount that is paid on an annual basis by them.
Karina.
Thank you, Chair. That's correct. We can't renegotiate our debt.
Thank you, Manager. I thank you, Chair, for the questions opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Galinsky. Is there anyone else who has any questions? Well, we have no in-camera session, so that brings us to item 12, which is adjournment. Thank you for your efficient discussion of everything today. Went over, I think, 1 minute or